cloud. Okay, so welcome to the SIG control plane fortnightly meeting. Today it's only myself and Lubo, so we're just gonna have a chat through the agenda. So if you're watching the recording, enjoy. So the only thing Lubo I was gonna really highlight today was the owners changes did land, and thank you for reviewing that with Vladik. So in this PR. We did say we would follow up with approvers after this. Do we still want to do that, or I assume Vladik's been off on PTO as well, and he did say he would do it. So I'm assuming
Vladik
that
just
it's just
joined.
fallen. Oh, did he? Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Hey, how's it going, Vladik?
Yeah, good. Sorry.
That's all good. When I'm
Thanks.
sharing my screen, I don't see who's there even or anything. It's yeah, Zoom is wonderful. Sorry, I was just saying that we obviously landed this owners file change 2 weeks ago, and we said we'd follow up with approvers after it. Do you
Oh,
still
yeah.
want to do that, or do you want to hold off? Or
No, let's do it. Sorry, I'm just the overhead is is killing me.
yeah, no, I appreciate it, man. Don't worry. Like it's not a rush. I'm not trying to rush you or anything. So even if it has to wait another 2 weeks, it's fine. I just wanted to make sure that we weren't delaying it for a given reason or something. So that's all good.
Mhm.
Cool. We are, if I go back to this, we are getting quite a few PRs labeled now. That's nice because it did introduce labeling at least. So there's a review backlog that has SIG control plane listed. So yeah, I've made a little bit of a dent, but obviously there's always more, and there will always be more. So yeah, I can try and get folks to kind of start looking at that a bit more seriously.
Yeah, it's crazy how the amount of PRs raised. I mean, we were at 200 and it jumped to 400. Now we're at 360, and it's just insane.
It's the impact of AI, honestly. Like there's a lot of new contributors that I'm seeing who are blatantly using AI, and they're not using it in a bad way or anything, but it's just that it's allowing them to just produce so many more PRs. Like I've dumped a whole load of PRs to Cuva alone. But yeah, it's causing just way
Yeah.
more work for everyone. The answer might be to use AI to review a little bit or just to speed it up a bit, but yeah, until we figure that out and improve the speed of things, I think we're gonna probably settle about 400 easily this cycle and probably ramp up past that towards the end as we always seem to do. So yeah, it's this
Yeah.
brave new world that we're living in, unfortunately. So one other thing we spoke about last time was potentially helping out with specific VEPs that we thought aligned with SIG control plane for the cycle. I haven't had time to go through and mark anything as SIG control plane, but if anyone does have any examples or things they think you know would fit, feel free to mark it as SIG control plane. That label should be available, and we can potentially help pull things through. By the next meeting, I think we're just about at vet freeze. So yeah, it's not very organized this cycle, but it was never going to be. I know, Vladik, we spoke briefly yesterday about a few bits and pieces. I don't. The only thing that could be part of this cycle is the vert handler pools thing or some equivalent of that. If I progress that enough, I might mark that as SIG control plane or something, just to take it off the plate of SIG compute. Because yeah, it's got nowhere else to live really. So
Yeah.
that might be one thing.
I mean, the other thing is the API. I don't know if this could be marketed as a control plane, but I mean, this discussion that we had yesterday about whether we can safely remove API,
Mm-hmm.
it drives me nuts. I'm sorry, like it doesn't let me sleep. I don't understand if we have a problem with removing APIs that we introduced in V1 as alpha. If we are not able to experiment with the API, then we are in a huge problem. I think, from my point of view. And we need to do some kind of we need to put it on someone so he will do, or she, a good enough research to see what we can and what are the limitations, and what in the light of these limitations, what we can actually do in terms of experimenting with the alpha API, and we need to come up with some kind of guidelines, because
Mhm.
for me it's entirely not clear right now. I don't even understand if there's a problem. I mean, maybe there's no problem. I just really don't get it.
Do you want to speak about it now? I mean, the agenda
No,
is pretty light. We can
I
think
just
about
think.
something and then complete it later.
Yeah, yeah.
Before.
Sorry, I was going through tabs. Yeah, we can talk about it now, obviously. So the one thing from yesterday was I think there was a misunderstanding a little bit between folks about our ability to add and remove fields from API definitions when the API group is, transiting between versions. So like V1 alpha to V1 beta, we can definitely drop fields at that point. So if we add a load of experimental stuff to V1 alpha 1, and we go to even V1 alpha 2 or V1 beta 1 even, we can easily drop stuff at that point, and it will be removed from etcd um, through, well, with the next write of that object, or the use of the storage migrator project that I was linking to yesterday. Ended up writing up. How can I do this? Where has it gone? So I ended up writing this demo script that kind of steps through this, and there's a script behind it that actually lets you play with it locally as well, and shows like the actual removal from etcd of these as you go from across actual API group version boundaries and everything. Because I think folks were thinking they would persist. They don't. So for that part, if it's a V1 alpha group, sure. Even if it's V1 beta to a point, we can also get away with it. You shouldn't really do it with beta. You should be more set in stone. But even if there's stuff that we end up deprecating with V1 beta, you can remove it, and we've done that with instance types already up until this point. The problem is when you get to V1, then it gets a little bit more sticky, but it's not impossible, but it's a little bit more sticky, and you don't necessarily have the storage converter doesn't run for V1 to V1 changes, or through V1 and V1 upgrades, like between releases of say Qt or something, it wouldn't run because the storage version doesn't change. Fields are still dropped though on write. They're dropped on read as well, but the etcd version of the object doesn't change. It's just on write it recreates it and drops it. So I think that's why for V1 there's this guidance of, instead of removing fields, you just deprecate them in place and then you remove them with the next version bump, because it's just cleaner and easier to do that way. You get more consistent behavior and everything. So yeah, the demo script does go on to kind of talk about that, and the only way that the field is lost is by a write and everything in etcd. And there's some key takeaways at the bottom and stuff. So yeah, when it comes to experimenting like with the VMI and stuff, like we can't really do that. It's V1. But we can do it, but we'd have to mark it as deprecated and leave it there. And are we ever going to have a V2? And I think that's where like certain folks have issues with this, is that it's just going to persist. potentially forever, because we may never have a v2 version of some of these objects. Yeah, I was speaking to Vladik yesterday about a couple of ideas that I had about this, about if we do need to kind of experiment with changes to some of these v1 APIs, providing some way of wrapping them so that you would have a v1 alpha representation of a virtual machine instance, but you a virtual machine instance with feature foo or something, and it would be clearly marked as experimental, just for testing out a new field or something, but it would ultimately have the same behavior. It would just pass everything through and have the same behavior as a normal v1 virtual machine instance, aside from the behavior that you're experimenting with, the toggle or whatever. Yeah, I don't even know if that's possible, but that's the only way I can think of like experimenting with these safely without having to carry these additional fields forever in the API, well, until v2, that is essentially forever. Sorry, Vladik, go ahead.
Lubo was first.
Yeah, sorry, I can only see you. Sorry.
No, go ahead, Vladik.
I mean, I don't understand why we're saying this, that this is not possible in V1. So I think from my point of view, the main problem is the V1. So most of our changes are landing there in the VMI API or in KubeVirt CR, and so maybe KubeVirt CR is less of a problem because I think we need to break it down anyway. But the VMI API here, we need a safe way to do it. We need a safe way to allow people to introduce I don't know, launch security, and then things like this, and then if something goes wrong there, we should revert and be able to remove all of this stuff while it's protected by a feature gate. So, but I know that the functionality protected by feature gate, but not the API. But we already had that. I mean, we already had fields that that were like in alpha. We removed them from. So there was the live update features, and we saw that this is safe to remove it. My problem was that I wasn't sure. Maybe the reintroduction of these fields are kind of harming us, but I didn't understand why is it not safe. Because we went through this exercise and everything was fine. So I'm probably missing something.
So maybe I can. Yeah, go ahead, Dean. Sorry.
No, sorry, I was saying for you to go ahead. Sorry, go.
Yeah, just I'm not saying this is 100% correct, but that's how my understanding is. Maybe this will shed some light. So basically, when you write an object, it gets pruned from unknown fields. This is based on the CRD definition. So in this case, for example, when we would be dropping the field, we would get automatic pruning, and so the new writes. It's not like new objects; it's new writes. So every new object and outdated object should get a prune already, and basically we get the new API behavior. The problem is with the stored object, because those stored objects are basically stored, right? So they contain the field. You need to read it and write it again. You don't need to do any changes, but you need to basically read and write, right? And if that's that's basically the only problem. If do not have a stale data in etcd, because if you wouldn't do this and you get a new version, and in the new version you again introduce this API field, then you would have the stale data in etcd for this field. And that's the only
You mean after upgrade? So after upgrade, I introduce that field again with a different meaning, or what? I'm not sure.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. So with
So what?
different meaning or the same doesn't really matter. But you could have a objects in etcd with old values.
So from the previous experience that we had the live update features. We removed it. Objects that had that they dropped it. So the moment we dropped it from the schema, after upgrade, it wasn't in the previous objects, in the stored objects. It was removed from there, and we proved that it was Antonio and Jed who showed that this is just not there. And then, so if we'll reintroduce it, I'm still puzzled a little bit of what would happen.
Yeah, I think it's just the fact that it relies on that read write cycle to happen to drop it. So I think that's what everyone's getting hung up on, is the fact that during an upgrade, if a VM isn't running, for example, um, you know, that field isn't going to get pruned necessarily, unless would it get pruned with the start, like, because we would read and write it then during the initial startup. At least no, because we have separate status. So yeah, it's just a flaky behavior. Like there's a chance that it wouldn't get pruned and it wouldn't. But then yeah, it would be across multiple releases. Like that kind of bad flow would be, introduce the VM, stop it, upgrade, the functionality is removed, upgrade again, the functionality is reintroduced with a different meaning, start it, and it's suddenly doing something different. But I still think it's a bit flaky, because if it's under like an experimental or whatever attribute, it should be clear to folks, like, not to reintroduce older fields. And we could even have it as a code comment or something in the struct
Yes.
saying, do not reintroduce foobar because foobar did this on this version. And like the other thing we can do as well is we can obviously test this, as Jed and others have done before, but we could also enforce a read write cycle if we were really worried about this, to really clean things up, or even change the semantics of the storage upgrader thing as well, because at the moment it only triggers on actual stored version upgrades. It's based on CR, on objects and CRs and stuff that are created, so we could just inject one into an environment, into an OpenShift environment, and it would get picked up even if it was V1 to V1, and it would just go through and rewrite everything to V1. So yeah,
Yes.
go on. Sorry.
I'm just saying that I think that this is the area that needs clarification and guidelines. We need to clarify it, show how this would work, and once and for all, come up with guidelines, so it will be clear for people. And if we, yeah, I don't know, that's I'm just really worried about this. Because this kind of undermines all the efforts that we have with this web system. That in alpha, go ahead, experiment with the API, and if this is not possible, then it means that we need to be very, very strict, um, even during given alpha.
Yeah, but you say during alpha, but you're acting on a V1 object. This is the thing. Like, why don't we set up?
How would
Because
you know if you're
yeah, because you can always reference, can't you? So why not create a separate CRD to encapsulate what you're trying to kind of experiment on, and you do all the experimentation in a separate CRD that references your VM. Say it's more work, but it's alpha, and you've got free reign of that. You can do whatever you want within that context, within that spec and everything. And once you've refined it enough, then you can bring it back in beta, say, to the V1 API. And so
so you
it's It's less about iterating like on the V1 thing. It's more about figuring out what the V1 portion of the API is going to eventually look like, and then only doing it in beta. So,
but I don't understand. I mean, if you create, maybe I'm just missing what you're saying. You'd create a different CRD that references the virtual machine, the virtual machine instance object. But then, how would the handler know about this?
but yeah, there's going to be additional plumbing to plumb that down into it potentially, but
Yeah,
that
but this
will be behind an alpha feature gate. Like that stuff you can segregate and remove when it's no longer needed at beta or something. Like, yeah, you should be able to kind of pass that information down.
that's introduction. That's basically introduction of new informers, and then
Yeah,
passing
yeah.
the additional object into Vert launcher. That's insane overhead.
Yeah. It's going to be a trade-off either way, right? Like, it's either you keep the API part clean, or we keep the internals clean, and we just have to come up with some documented kind of flow for these cases.
I would rather figure out if there's really a problem with the way we're doing it right now, because it seems from the experiment that we've done with this live update feature, there isn't a problem, and I'm not sure. Like, it's all kind of a theoretical what Eddie is saying, but I didn't see a problem. We safely did that, safely removed that, and everything is fine. I mean, we're continuing with the V1 object and no other issues. So I'm not sure. Like, that's what I'm saying. That somebody needs to take it, show if there is a or there isn't a problem, and come up with guidelines. And that's what I think that we need to try to schedule this for this cycle or next cycle. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, well, I think step one is probably just writing down the problem. Like, I don't want to do this in a VEP because it's experimentation and it's figuring stuff out. So I can put it as an issue. I'm happy to write it up as an issue against SIG control plane. I've already done that initial work. I think the bits that are missing from that initial work is actual upgrade path stuff, and actually using V1 virtual machines or virtual machine instances or something like that, actually in our API and in our tree, and stepping through like an actual qvert example of it and showing the state of etcd after the upgrade, and proving like your theory that, well, that what we've seen before, that it is actually rewritten and this is safe to do. And then on the back of that, yeah, then we can write best practice documentation for like how to do this going forward, and conventions and all that nonsense. So, okay, I will take it on as an action to do that initial part, and I will try and get a demo or something by the next call, showing it and getting some results, and then we can kind of discuss and bring it to the wider group of like if it makes folks more comfortable with allowing those kind of changes to V1 APIs that we will potentially drop. I still think people are going to be purists about it and argue against it, but at least we'll have data to fall back on and say, no, look, this is actually what happens. It's kind of cool. Lubo, go ahead.
I mean, underlying the worst case is that you need to keep the API, but just mark it as deprecated in the Go, and then just keep the tag, JSON tag. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, and that's the kind of de facto kind of thing that happens at the moment. You rip out all the functionality behind it. It would be nice. Sorry, Vlad, go on. You're muted.
Sorry. Just a thought. I mean, does it have to be kept in Go? I mean, we could keep it somewhere in the project, and then I don't know, if somebody reintroduces the same field, we'll just have GitHub action that blocks it. I don't know, something simple as this.
Yeah, potentially. Like I said, the way that it's normally done at the moment that I've seen is just keeping it in there the actual variable name is changed to deprecated, but the JSON tag stays the same. So yeah, we either way we can prove like if it's required or not, and have actually write something down from this, and definitely use it this cycle for things as well, or use it as justification for folks landing experimental stuff potentially this cycle in V1 APIs.
Okay,
Cool.
thank you.
No problem. I'm just gonna write that down. I did have a note about any more cleanup issues for this cycle, and I've just signed myself up to another one. So hopefully there's nothing else. Let's write up. Cool. I'll just copy that down there. Wonderful. Did anyone have anything else for the agenda today? Nope. Okay. Yeah. Like I said, with the enhancement for the vert handler pool thing, I'll clean it up. I was potentially going to rename it, to be honest, but yeah, I'll try and move that forward if I can before the next meeting, and that could be something that the group kind of iterates on if it gets approved in time in the coming month or the weeks even. I'll get the issue written up as well, and yeah, we'll just see if we can get approvers populated and folks kind of reviewing the backlog a little bit more. I guess that's all we can kind of aim for with 1.9. Yeah, and hopefully by the end of the cycle, yeah, we'll have a few more folks involved, and we'll be in a better place to take on more enhancements next cycle, and get through more of the bug backlog and have SIG compute a bit more. All good. All right. Thank you all for your attention and time today. Really appreciate it. We'll catch you in the next one in 2 weeks.
Can you hear me?
Oh yeah. Hey, Eddie. Sorry, I didn't hear you before. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry for popping up late. I think if we're already in this forum, we do have a question regarding the decouple SIG specific logic from core control plane components, that issue.
Okay.
So I took a look at some of the existing PRs, namely the one by Anish for decoupling the VM export controller using a storage registry. And I was taking a look because of that at the controller watch application go file and thinking about how we can further decouple it, because right now it is very, very loaded and not very readable. And considering other project under the KubeVirt umbrella, well, obviously more like newer ones, I was thinking about a hypothetical migration to controller runtime, if it was ever proposed or discussed before.
Yeah, it's been proposed a few times, but it's like the removal of Bazel. It's a bandwidth problem. Like, yeah, it's a big chunk of work potentially. Lubo, did we get a GSOC person for the API stuff?
So
At
that would be
least.
actually question to Adi. Adi is reviewing the proposals.
Yeah, for Basil specifically, unfortunately, we received only 3 proposals and all of them didn't quite fit. I do think though that Brian's initial work in this is pretty good, and I will definitely push it forward myself.
Oh yeah, sorry, I didn't mean the Bazel proposal. I think we had a
Oh,
GSOC proposal for switching over the API to the API parts of runtime. I think, was that right, Lubo?
you mean the library API server, the generic one?
Yeah, sorry, not yeah. It's the generic API server. Sorry, yeah, I'm mixing things up.
Is this recorded? It's recorded. Let's say that we have still 4 days to decide, but
Okay,
I'm
right.
very hopeful that we will have somebody.
Okay, but yeah, I was just using that as an example as well. Like, yeah, that's long been sought as well. So
Right.
yeah, it's definitely possible, but it is a huge amount of work. How have
So
you kind of mapped out? Sorry, go on, Vladek.
no, I'm just saying that we started basically bringing over some of the elements from the controller runtime into the migration controller. For example, like the queue, the priority queue, and all of this stuff. So I think, yeah, I mean, our skeleton is still based on the like regular controllers, but I think that we need to start, and I'm just maybe we need to take one of the controllers and try moving it to runtime. And I wonder if that's possible, or do we have to do it in one go, just replace everything? But this is just huge amount of work. If you are ready for just taking a stab at this and looking at what does it take to do it, that would be great, I think. Lubo.
So actually, somebody from IBM was very interesting in helping removing the beta. So we can get
I
you to
did
come.
I did go just like had a very quick poke at it because I was looking at the issue today. So I tried moving like the node reconciler controller to using controller runtime. So there are a few like glaring issues with regards to how we manage our caches because right now we do it by hand with the Qt Informer factory and all.
Yeah,
So I did manage to get it work, and it does like there are a few issues, right? But as long as we really just take all almost all agency from the controller runtime manager and do stuff like via adapters or wrappers until we complete the migration of all necessary controllers into like reconcilers that fulfill the manager's contract, I think it is doable. But as said, it will take a significant amount of work and we will need commitment from all SIGs.
but can we demonstrate based on one controller something that is
Yes.
that's significant? Yeah, if we could do that and show what exactly show a pattern that could be reusable in other controllers, that would be great. There are lots of pros. I mean, first of all, is caching.
What kind of caching? Like what caching is there that we don't do?
No, we do. We just manage it all by ourselves. And
Yeah,
here you just remove the boilerplate. The boilerplate is much smaller.
Yeah, so there is obviously the dynamic cacher that is in controller runtime, but it's not a big pro. Like I agree with Lubo because we already do that and it's battle tested. Um, but it does standardize the way we write controllers. Right now, we like every controller is sort of on its own. Like we have different execution models and sync loops, and I think this forces us to abide by a certain contract that we simply don't right now. Like that's at least one pro I can think of, besides
okay.
eliminating a lot of boilerplate.
Okay, yeah, in the past I am aware of a few issues. For example, you couldn't construct informers as you wish. Like sometimes we do informers that are not standard. Is it something
Yes.
that they already added to the runtime?
So stuff like I guess you're referring to something like the domain informer, like a libvirt domain informer.
Yeah. For
Yeah.
example, I
So
think we had also like migration source and a target informers.
No, but
yeah.
that
So we would definitely need to
go ahead.
go ahead, let it.
No. Sorry, can continue.
I guess we would definitely need to examine that further because it's there are a lot of things to consider here, right? Um, like
Yeah. So
even like threadiness control and yeah, go ahead.
from the videos that I saw back at the time when I start looking into the priority queue, there were only advantages. When people were speaking about this, and some of the projects, some of the large projects moved to that. So I don't know. I think that we need to start somewhere and see if it improves something. Even the boilerplate. I mean, from my point of view, the boilerplate is one of the things that is being reduced, and that's also an advantage. But I think we need to do some kind of exploratory discovery work to see if it makes sense for us, and what does it take to do it. But for example, the domain informer, yeah, this one is tricky, but I don't know if we need. Like, I hate it, to be honest. So I'm not sure. Maybe a fresh somebody with fresh eyes would look at it and come up with a better way.
Yeah, I think we can always find our own stuff, but yeah, I feel are much better if we just reuse existing infrastructure. Well, anyway, I mean, the boilerplate is already written, and I don't expect us to introduce more and more controllers. So I personally don't see us such benefit to just rewrite everything into the runtime, possibly messing up something up.
But that's an argument that can always be. I mean, you change something. We just split Vert Handler into 3 different controllers, and there was a massive amount of work, but it was needed to for this new migration type and support, and to fix other issues. I think that kind of work of modernization is necessary from my point of view, and it does bring already all kind of benefits. So, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I would explore.
Yeah, at the risk of conflating stuff, I guess like uh, I mean we should definitely look into sort of decoupling the application Go file anyway. I just saw this as a way to like hit 2 birds with 1 stone, sort of. Um, but yeah, because like the main motivation here, in my opinion, is to avoid people who want to change things in a controller or like controller constructors have to gain like root approval. Like if you change something related to storage code controllers, you shouldn't really need anyone else but storage people, if that makes sense. Um, and yeah, and controller runtime just seemed like a good option to shove in there, but
Yeah, definitely. I think experimentation at this phase, that makes sense to just give this a go. We can just track this as a bug for the rest of 1.9. If you want to come up with a POC example for that controller that you referenced, that would be good and a good starting point for discussions. And we can potentially kind of queue it up for 110 and beyond to, look at this migration as a more serious thing once we've got that kind of data point of what it looked like for this single controller, what's potentially lacking with controller runtime, get input from other SIGs as well as we head into the next kind of VEP cycle for 110. I think that's probably the right cadence to go forward with this. And just to Lubo's point from before, because we do already have this code written, but it is kind of, it's all our responsibility to maintain as well. And we've already had instances of bit rot with certain parts of the control plane at this point where things just haven't been maintained and eventually cause bugs and have to be fixed and resolved and stuff. I'm all for something like this potentially allowing us to kind of offload some of that responsibility elsewhere, and reducing the amount of code that we have to actively maintain. Obviously, there could still be bugs in the controller runtime. There will be bugs, and there will be bugs with this migration. But I think it's overall it will probably benefit the community, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, in our boilerplate, there was definitely a few bugs. I mean, I was the one fixing them. So
Yeah,
I can
definitely.
give you 5 examples at least. But yeah, I mean, if there is a
All
feature
right.
party,
So
if there is a feature party, yeah, that's a different question.
I'll definitely take this as an action item for the next meeting to have some sort of POC or at least a preliminary examination of this.
That would be awesome. Could I ask you to just write up a tracking issue as well, and just assign it to SIG control plane, just in case something happens and we don't talk to you in 2 weeks, and just so we've got something visible as well. Because folks might take a look at it. Awesome. Thank you so much for that. Cool. All right. I'll try this again. Anything else from anyone else? Any other comments, questions, concerns? Anything you want to bring up? If not, I will thank you all for coming and attending. And yeah, I will catch you all in 2 weeks. Thank you all. See you soon. Bye.
Bye.